prosperity and well-being of any society is tied to two things. One, how well the working people are doing in that society, in particular class relations, and two, technology. How innovative is the economy to push the frontier of production through innovation and through new research and development. And both of these are directly tied to education system, in particular how education system promotes and nurture critical thinking and innovation. And to discuss this, I have a special guest with me, Mr. Syed Babar Ali, who is one of the leading educationists in Pakistan and the pioneer of the leading university of Pakistan, Lahore University of Management Sciences. So we learn from Mr. Babar Ali how he was able to develop such a robust institution in the given socioeconomic and political constraints of Pakistan. Thank you for giving us time. So there's a lot of talk about knowledge economy and fourth industrial revolution. So my question is Pakistan's higher education system competitive enough to make a difference in today's knowledge economy and compete with other regional countries and globally?
Well, there are multiple reasons for it. One is, over the last many decades, we have not given priority to higher education, with the result that the candidates that we have for faculty and especially for vice chancellors in different universities have been of a quality which could have been much better if we had emphasized on quality education in the country. And also the selection procedures in most universities have not been entirely on merit. So there has been a kind of an erosion of quality of management at the university levels, and therefore the HEC, which is the overall body to help the universities do a better job, have not been able to get the kind of response from the universities. HEC itself, till Tariq Banuri came in, was also subject to maladministration, I would say. They could have done a better job. Their whole operation was not merit-based. It was very sort of on basis of personal likes and dislikes, which is totally averse to quality and merit selection. So these are the factors which have not helped higher education in the country. And HEC, during Tariq Banuri's time, he didn't have enough time. He was there only for 2 years, and it was a Herculean effort on his part really to put the HEC into form and to shape where it could perform. And he did a good job in cleaning up the mess, but 2 years is not enough for really setting things right. You need more than 4 years really to set things right and make it function. But the general weakness in the whole system is chronic. It has been there for decades. So it requires a Herculean effort to bring Pakistan on the world map of higher education.
So you talked about HEC, the Higher Education Commission of Pakistan, and you were also part of the search committee that finalized the chairperson of HEC, Mr. Tariq Banuri. So recently I read in newspapers that the process was not competitive enough and Mr. Tariq Banuri was not the right choice. So how would you respond to this criticism?
Well, I mean, I could tell you that we interviewed everybody who applied. We spent hours on looking at candidates, and we shortlisted them. We called them again, and we thought that we did a very professional job in selection of Tariq Banuri. we looked at the other candidates also. We investigated their bona fides. We checked up on their credentials, and we came to the conclusion that Tariq Banuri was the most suitable candidate. Nobody had approached us for Tariq Banuri. It was our own selection, and it was a unanimous decision by the selection committee. I have no regrets in having conducted this objective of selection, which we thought we had done a very honest job.
So as we are aware that recently government did prematurely dismiss chairperson of HEC through an ad hoc ordinance. So in your opinion, what are some adverse effects of this move by the federal government on higher education of Pakistan?
There is no security of service. There is no security of tenure. There is no security of being a fair administrator. If you are left at the whims of individuals who carry out wrong propaganda and wrong information being fed to the authorities, this to me has been a very unfair and a very damaging decision by the government, which needs to be reversed. I can tell you the damage it will do to the future of higher education cannot even be measured. It frightens me to think what will happen in the future as far as higher education is concerned if the government's action is carried through.
Historically, there has been a lot of criticism on Higher Education Commission of Pakistan because it tends to prioritize quantity over quality, and it is more interested in patronage-based policies rather than more rule-based system. So in your opinion, how can HEC promote more quality education and more accessible education for all segments of society in Pakistan?
Well, I mean, they have to help the universities improve their administration. You see, the Higher Education Commission doesn't directly run any university. They are there to support universities, to make sure that there is discipline, there is meritocracy in the selection of faculty. You should have faculty on tenure system so that people who perform well get rewarded. People who do not perform should be dissociated with. Of course, the other thing which the Higher Education Commission has to do is to make sure that there is research and development being conducted at the various universities by capable people. They should provide finances on the basis of proper scrutiny, and there should be a accountability of the money that is given out to the universities for R&D to ensure what is the output on a regular basis. Tariq started doing this, but previously it was not happening. They were just doling out money and then just forget about what happened, whether there was any research or not, whether there was any delivery or not. The other thing that is important is there has been too much emphasis on papers being written by faculty, irrespective of whether those papers were plagiarized or whether they had any real meaning or not, whether they were published in the right journal, international journals or not, whether they were being cited or not. No such scrutiny was done previously. It was Tariq who started putting a system in place to make sure that papers that are written and are acknowledged and rewarded are the ones that are printed, published in the right kind of international journals of repute. So there has been a lot of, I would say, irresponsible dishing out of money from the Higher Education Commission prior to Tariq coming there also in various equipments that were being dished out to various universities, and there was no monitoring and no accountability as to what these equipments were doing, what new research was being done, what was the outcome of such expensive equipment being installed. So you require a very disciplined and a very fair sort of scrutiny and monitoring and judgment by the people at HEC. I mean, we had the opportunity to meet some of the HEC staff during our interviews, and it was really sad to see that they were not able to give any information at all, that the selection committee of which I was associated were asking those questions. They could provide no data, no information. They were just dumb clerks.
Given that you have built one of the leading universities in Pakistan, i.e. LUMS, so I would like to ask you, what are some basic principles that you have used to establish such a competitive university in Pakistan, especially given the socioeconomic and political constraints that you have to face while operating in higher education system of Pakistan?
Before we set out to establish LUMS, we went around the world to look at and meet people who were successful members of international universities, and we sought their help in giving us ideas and in guiding us as to how to go about putting a university together. And the emphasis was that the faculty that we were recruiting, and especially the leadership in the faculty, had to be totally on merit and select the best person irrespective of what was the color of his skin or what religion he belonged to or what country he came from. Our first two vice chancellors, heads of our university, at that time we were only a business school, but deans, one was a Swede, the other was a Canadian, and then followed by put in the first Pakistani, who was selected by the outgoing dean. And ever since then, we have maintained that standard. We now have international advisory board consisting of faculty from MIT, from Harvard, from Stanford, who come every year to look at our operations, to meet our faculty, to question them, to meet our students, to see our results. And within the last 35 years, we have been able to get at least over 1,000 of our alumni admitted to top universities of the world, and they have performed extremely well. I would say that we have at least 500 of our alumni, undergraduates who went abroad for higher education, have obtained PhDs from the top universities of the world, from Oxford, Cambridge, Canadian universities, Harvard, MIT, Austin, Stanford, you name it. And some of our alumni are today even on the faculty of top American universities. There's a faculty member who has joined, he and his wife are both alumni of LUMS. They have joined Stanford University as faculty. So it's been totally on merit and nothing else. And so has been our admission process. I can tell you that of the 15,000 students who have graduated and another 5,000 who are on the campus, say about 20,000, I don't know of one student who was admitted on the basis of other than merit.
As we know, intellectual and academic freedom are part and parcel of promoting critical thinking and innovation in higher education. And we also know that in Pakistan, intellectual and academic freedom are severely curtailed by different forces. Now, I would like to ask you two questions here. A, can you talk about how in particular LUMS is trying to expand intellectual and academic freedom? And B, how can we at large promote intellectual freedom in Pakistan?
Well, this is a very sad and a touchy subject. We ourselves are victims of pressure, of not allowing total freedom on the campus, which is totally averse to education. Unless you question everything, unless you doubt everything, how can you create new ideas? And unfortunately, people who are in position of power in the country to interfere, they feel that any criticism is being a traitor to the cause of the country, which is totally absurd. I mean, if you look at the history of Islam, I mean, the whole purpose, the whole emphasis in Islam over the last 1400 years is go and seek knowledge. So knowledge means go and find out ideas which are different to yours. And that, unfortunately, is because reading in Pakistan is something which is not encouraged, either at school or the university level. I doubt if any of our leaders have ever read a book. And the more you read, the more you learn, and the more you understand what it is to see the other person's point of view. How can you understand, make out a strategy unless you know how your opponents are thinking? And so you have to create new knowledge, and for new knowledge you have got to provide all the freedom of thought and freedom of discussion, freedom of rubbing of the minds, so that people can come out with new ideas. And that is not encouraged in Pakistan at all. Everybody is out to make you march to one tune, and you'll end up being morons in the country.
All those students, especially from working and middle classes of Pakistan who want to pursue quality higher education in Pakistan, what would be your message to them?
Well, my plea to everybody is, you must read and study outside your textbooks. Passing an examination doesn't mean that you know anything. You've forgotten 90% of what you read in the textbooks anyhow by the time you get a degree. So broaden your knowledge by reading subjects that are of interest to you, and read things which are written by people who may not agree with you. And that is how you will learn how to adjust your thinking and how to modify your own attitude towards life, because nobody knows everything, and you've got to keep on seeking new knowledge, talk to people, interact, learn. Today with the internet, everything is at your doorstep. So my plea to the youth is seek knowledge and follow your passion.
It was wonderful talking to you. I hope I can engage you again to discuss higher education in Pakistan. Thank you so much for your time.